Okay, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining the ScreenBeam team here on the first EMEA live event that we are doing. This is something new that we are trying out, and we hope that it's beneficial to you. We're going to be covering a couple of different topics this morning, but wanted to let you know who is on with us today and kind of give you the lay of the land for the live event. Um, you'll notice a Q&A section in your meeting where you can ask questions. So feel free at any time to ask questions. You can ask anyone in particular. It'll let you know who's on the line. There's Brett, David, Richard, Jerome, myself, David as well, and Megan are all on the line. If you have any questions in particular for anyone or just the group in general, please feel free to ask those questions at any time. And we can answer those privately, or we can make them public and answer them as well. So if you do have a specific question about something related to you, no one else will see that question unless we publish it. So feel free, with discretion, to ask any question that you would like. My name is David Lopez. I am the strategic senior manager for strategic alliances here in the U.S. I'm actually in Florida, on the Tampa side, on the west coast of the east coast of the United States. And glad to be able to be joining you here. And we've also got Megan on the line, who is also in our alliance team, and she is going to be presenting some information as well. We're going to be covering a couple of different topics today, specifically around work from home strategies that we've been talking about with some of you. You may have seen some of the videos and things, but we're going to be covering those a little bit more in depth. And we're also going to be covering some things regarding on education. And all of this is going to be focused around kind of the education format and the education topic, but also covering some things about this idea of reverse engineering the classroom, maybe backwards planning. Some of you may have heard things like that, but we're going to go ahead and get started right now. So the first slide really that we're looking at is really just a winning slide to show that there's a lot of folks using ScreenBeam across their campuses, and there's more obviously than what we have here, and especially on the enterprise side as well. But it's just kind of a showing that wireless display is on the upswing in many different areas, not only in education, but enterprise as well. And people finally really figuring out that this is a needed solution for them on an enterprise level, not just something that is an ad hoc or a second thought when they put things together, that it has to be something that they want to be able to have in the classroom and in the boardroom and wherever else they might want to have a display. So just keep that in mind, and it's a nice slide to be able to take a look at some different customers that are using it. Some of you may be on the line, or some of these may be your customers. Again, my name is David. We're going to be giving you some messaging updates here, and Megan Lipinczyk is also again on the line. The first one we're going to talk about today is what we are calling Project Work from Home, and what we were kind of thinking about when we first came up with these ideas. We were thinking about some different ways that people are now having to work from home, and different environments that you're working in. And this might apply to you, or it might apply to people you know, or customers you might have. But what we really looked at when we were putting this together was, how could wireless display fit into these scenarios, and how we use it at our own homes, and saying, hey, these are some ways that it could be used, and not only ways that it could be used, but ways that it could actually benefit the user in this case. And what we put together are 3 videos, and we've got a couple of more coming that maybe talk a little deeper into some of these and how they work and why they might be beneficial. But the first one in the top left here, and I'll zoom in on this slide to show you, is the extended dual monitor setup. And what we're calling this is kind of a shared dual monitor setup. So if you are setting up monitors, maybe you have a space that, it's not an office, but you needed a space to be able to work, and you have a couple of monitors. Maybe it's an old monitor, maybe it's a new monitor, it could be VGA, could be HDMI, but you only have a laptop with one output on it. You can connect that output to a single monitor and then connect a ScreenBeam without using any other docking station or anything like that. You can connect the ScreenBeam to the second monitor, and actually, because it's a native Windows 10 environment, you can actually just use that as an extended view, which is a really nice feature. And the reason we call this a shared dual monitor experience is, and in the video, Parker is on the video, and he kind of explains this. He says, you know, his wife comes up and says she wants to use that screen for a few minutes. She's working on her master's thesis or her doctorate, and she comes in and he disconnects from that one screen, and she's able to use that screen without having to plug any cables, without having anything extra laying around. Just a neat way of being able to share that space, but also when it's not being used by one person, it could be used by more than one. And then we also have the simpler, I guess, if you will, an extended single monitor setup. So if I'm just using a ScreenBeam with a single monitor and I don't want a bunch of cables connected, I want to be able to, one of the things we talk about in the video is want to be able to pick the laptop up, and if you're going to be on a call, just grab your laptop and go. If you want to go to a more private location, really give you a quick way to just grab it and go. But then also in an education scenario, we discussed being able to pick up your device, turn on the world-facing camera, and maybe use it to show content. Maybe you've got some manipulatives, maybe you've got some things that you brought from school to show. Maybe you're doing a dissection, maybe you're a biology teacher and you're doing a dissection, and you want to pick up your camera and move it around and show something to the students in a more flipped classroom environment, if you will. It allows you to do that without the being tied down to your desk. And again, you can just grab your device, turn on the camera, move it around, set it back down, and continue to work. So that's one scenario that we said, hey, those are two scenarios that we said those are really neat for people to be able to use ScreenBeam in that environment. And it's easy to share by showing these videos. The last one, which is one of my favorites, I think, is this idea down here is hacking your big screen in a work from home environment, and being able to take your ScreenBeam, connect it to your big screen with a reliable, you know, as we use AGO Miracast connection. You know, I do this all the time actually in my screen downstairs in our house, is connect my ScreenBeam, my computer to the ScreenBeam, and I'm able to do things like what you might think of immediately is if we have a call with our family, I can throw that up on the big screen, set my computer up in an area wherever I want to and make it comfortable so I can see my family, and then I can connect that way and have a live video call. But in a classroom or education scenario, one of the things I show in this video is being able to pick up your tablet, being able to put your screen and send it to the and if you have maybe an external camera or a couple of different ways to do it, or even just doing a recording, you can actually use your device as an ad hoc whiteboard. In this case, I picked up my stylus. I was able to write on my screen. I was talking to the audience. In this case, could be students, or it could be on an enterprise side as well. You could be talking to customers, and I was able to refer to content, show it behind me, have live content changing behind me. So if I had a PowerPoint running, I could be talking about that and have more, I guess, a more tactile experience with that. Because we are working from home, we're looking for different ways to engage with our students or engage with customers. This is a really cool way to do it by having content running behind you, and you're not having to set up picture in picture. You're not having to go through all complicated software. You're just using what you have. And that's a really neat way to showcase that. So thought it would be good to, again, we're sharing these for people to be able to take it and use it as you will, but it's a great way, and we call it Project Work From Home. And again, you can visit the website, obviously, to see all the content that's there, and you can also obviously see on YouTube, and we'll be putting those links. I think Megan is putting those into the as announcements in the chat. The second thing that I'm going to talk about, and before I hand it off to Megan, is thinking forward. So thinking forward into the future, when we are able to get back to our normal environment, being able to see, okay, what are people doing, what are customers looking at, and if you are a customer, maybe what you're thinking about in your classrooms that you might be planning, in things you want to be putting together. And we call this topic or this idea reverse engineering. But if you're in education, you may have heard the term backwards planning. And what the idea is beginning with the end in mind. One of the things that I talk a lot about as kind of heading up our education messaging is customers, or if you're in education specifically, if you are a customer, you're looking at what you want to be able to do in the future. So you may look at catalog pictures like this, and you see these pictures of open, active learning spaces, different ways to display screens. You might see different furniture. You may not even see chairs. You may see bean bags or different ways to lay out and how a classroom sets itself up. What you don't see as an ideal, if you're an administrator, is you don't say, okay, my ideal classroom is a bunch of rows of desks, and that's what I really want to see. You see these catalog pictures in your mind, but one of the things that you don't see in these pictures is cables anywhere. And you just don't see it because they either have them hidden really well, or they just set this up to take a picture and they didn't think about, okay, how do we make this actually work? What we talk about when we're backwards planning or reverse engineering this is, if you see this as an ideal, then your point that you want to look at is, okay, how do I get to that point really quickly? Or how do I start out with something like this so I'm not building all this stuff and then having to figure out how it works in the end? And we talk about starting with wireless display. If you start with wireless display, if you begin with the end in mind and you say, okay, I want to have an open, active learning space, then the point is, if I reverse engineer that and I bring that to the forefront and I say, okay, if I start with a solid, proven, tested wireless display solution first, I'm already 90% of the way there towards that ideal classroom setup. And we've created several assets that are available to you. And I think, again, Megan is going to be putting some of that content on the screen. We've created several assets. One is an infographic, which is here on the left-hand side. And obviously, I'm a little far away to see all of that, but it talks through that exact scenario that I just mentioned, is being able to begin with the end in mind, being able to say, okay, if I start with wireless display, if I want my teachers untethered, then I can make better decisions about all the other things that I am putting into that modern classroom environment. And what you'll see as you watch this, there's a video here that talks through it, and you'll notice a familiar voice on that video. If you see that and as you walk through and watch the video, or you watch through the infographic, you'll notice that as you're building that story of, okay, now I make a good decision about the teacher device, then I can make a better decision about my display, then I can make a better decision about the way things are connected in my classroom. The money and the costs start to really add up when it comes to saving, not on the cost expenditures, but on the saving side. And that is a really powerful way to look at this. And it's something that I've shown personally to many people. And I have this aha moment where people say, wait a minute, stop. You sold me. I understand I should have started that way. Or now that I'm building a new school, we just talked to a school here in the United States last week. We're building a new school. That makes total sense to start with that side, and then I can make all the other decisions in a better way. And I actually end up saving money, and I actually get more functionality out of my classroom with less stuff. And that's where this total cost of the modern classroom infographic on the right side of your screen comes into play. And so these assets really are something, if you're a customer or if you're working with us as a ScreenBeam partner, this is great content to really at least take a look at and review and say, hey, am I making these right choices? Does this help me be able to see maybe what some options are? And one of the biggest things that comes out of this conversation with customers that I have is, you've shown me that I'm free to make better decisions. Where I thought I was pigeonholed into a specific way of having to do things, now you've shown me, hey, this makes total sense. I should be looking at something like this way. And one of the points that I go out on a limb oftentimes, and I'll say, hey, even if you don't choose ScreenBeam, you really should be evaluating a powerful wireless display solution that works, not just adding it on at the end. You really want to be starting there. And that's where we were able to help you. That's where we're able to show you how to make it work. And again, being pioneers and leaders in the industry, it gives you the advantage in working with us. So that's a really truncated view of some of that content. We can certainly go more in depth, but we've only got half an hour here with you, and we're trying to be respectful of your time. Again, thank you. I haven't been watching the numbers join, but we've got a little over 100, almost 100 people or so joining with us. We're glad that you're with us. And oh, I have some really cool animations that I forgot to run. So that's related content. And oops, I didn't get my other animation in there. Oh, well, that's okay. So now I'm going to pass things off to Megan. Megan's really, noticed the whole time I really haven't talked much about product. So Megan's going to take over and share with you more specifically about some product. If you do, as she's been doing such a great job of posting some questions, if you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead and take those. And Megan, I'm going to hand things off to you, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, David. Okay, so exactly throughout this whole presentation so far, David hasn't really mentioned our actual device. So our device that we are using with education is the ScreenBeam 1000. So with this device, it is our newest device actually for education with a high-performing 4K wireless display and collaboration solution. At the bottom, you see that we are able to connect to multiple operating systems without drivers or any third-party applications required. It also includes local Wi-Fi mode connectivity with industry standard Miracast and network infrastructure connectivity or network bridge functionality. It basically will deliver an unparalleled deployment option for teachers and students during their wireless presentations. And ScreenBeam, this 1000 delivers an affordable, easy way for students and teachers to have that unparalleled experience and be able to deploy and manage as well. So with this receiver, if you have a Windows 10 laptop or a Chromebook or your Android device, you're able to connect and to show your students exactly what you're using, what you're doing on that device without any cables or any apps for that matter. You're also able to have that modern classroom that David spoke about earlier, is that if you start with the end in mind, you're able to use the wireless, our wireless display as our solution as a way to connect with your students, connect with your teachers, connect, if this is in a collaboration space. One of the newer features with this is that you also can have up to 4 users on screen to share. So if you're in a space where you have multiple people wanting to share their screen, you can have up to 4 screens there. You can also do a quick switch. So if you're able to, someone's presenting and someone else wants to present, you don't need to disconnect. You can just do a quick switch and be able to do that. On this next slide, this just goes into a little bit more detail of what ScreenBeam supports with our 1000. With every ScreenBeam 1000, it includes a central management system. So we call that our CMS software. And that's where you can remotely manage large-scale deployments across multiple locations. And with that will save you time. And with that as well, we also include Classroom Commander. Now, for me, I am a former elementary teacher, or lower taught 9 to 10-year-olds, and Classroom Commander was very helpful for me in the classroom. So Classroom Commander is a way that we combine our wireless display with student Windows 10 devices, as well as Chromebook solution, and we're going to show you that as well. Being able to set up the classroom how you want. You see here in this scenario that we have a teacher that connects to the ScreenBeam, and then students will also connect to the ScreenBeam as well, just to being able to do Windows K. And then once the students are connected, you as the teacher on your device, you'll be able to see a roster of your students, as well as little thumbnails of their screens. So when you do this isn't necessarily a monitoring tool, but this is a way for you to highlight what your students are working on. So for example, If you want to highlight what this student here, where the arrow is, you're able to click their thumbnail, look at what they're doing, but you say, hey, you know what they're doing is really cool. I want everyone to see what they're doing on this screen. So instead of the student, basically just showing their device and just showing the students around them, the teacher can then project what the student is working on from the student's screen. Now the student can go up and share exactly what they're doing. They can annotate over it, and it will go back to their own student device. So let's say after that, you're all right, like I'm ready to share my screen again. You're able to do that, but then if you wanted to have a conversation with your students or maybe reteach something, you can go ahead and throw up your connect your screen to what you're doing. Now, as you're teaching, if you notice, there are two students that are not working on what they're supposed to be doing. So on that, I think that's students on a YouTube page and other students on some other site that's not what they should be working on. So you as the teacher can just do a quick glance and, oh, okay, this student is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I can do something like this. I can select their screens, and then I can basically silence their screens so they're not able to use the keyboard or the screen. So that's kind of like their timeout. And obviously you would want to teach digital citizenship, and so that your students are, using the right websites and whatnot. But let's say after that, as you continue teaching, you wanted to go back and to your lesson. So those two students are blanked out, but then let's say you wanted to go through and say, hey, I need all of your attention right now because I want to share something. Maybe there was a misconception, maybe students were understanding something, or you want to go over something again. You can essentially go back to your classroom commander and be able to silence all of their screens. So now you have their attention. They don't have any functionality of their keyboard or their screen. So you can also share lessons through Classroom Commander. So if you have a website or something that you want to send to all students, you're able to start a program. For instance, in this example, we are using Microsoft Whiteboard. And you're able to start a program, you're able to push that out to your students. So now that your students have, they're connected to the ScreenBeam as well, you're able to send a link, open the website, and it opens on their computer. So you send that out, and if you look now on your thumbnails, the students all have that website. So it really saves teachers instructional time when you're able to just send things out to their computers, to their devices, without having them to type it in, or they don't know where the program is located. So that's really a great way to manage and to facilitate that collaboration in the classroom. So this is really exciting. We've launched, we're actually in the beta stages of using Classroom Commander for Chromebook. So the example before was within a Windows 10 environment. So if a teacher has a Windows 10 device, they could even have a Chromebook, but you're able to have that same experience in Chrome. So you're able to see student rostering by a server. So this is all through the browser. And you have a roster of students on the right, same look as the Windows 10 where you have the thumbnails where you can see what the students are doing. You're also able to silence the screens like you would in a Windows 10 environment. And you're able to send out different websites to students as well. And you can have the students basically silenced as you're up there teaching. So as you go through, you can see the thumbnail here, and then you can see that's that middle screen on the Chromebook. So again, this supports any Chromebook, and this is something that's really exciting that no one else is doing, and that what separates ScreenBeam from other wireless display solutions.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to mention, is that we know that there are other solutions that can do similar things when it comes to viewing student screens and having that kind of control and orchestration. But if you really drill down into those, really the idea of we are wireless display first. So again, if we go back to that original scenario, if you're not wanting a lab environment, which you talk to most teachers, they don't want to have to be working in a lab, in a computer lab. They want to have a classroom, and if their students have devices, if they are a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 environment where they have several devices, they don't want to be working in an environment where, okay, this is a lab, I'm always going to be staring at my student's screen using software, they're going to be isolated on their screens. That's not educationally and instructionally, and again, I come from the classroom as well. Those aren't ways that we look at as ideal. We look at the ideal, as we saw in those pictures, of having the kind of flexibility and mobility that you want in the classroom. And Megan's done a good job of really kind of explaining that ScreenBeam 1000 gives you the wireless display that you want, that you need, and then in addition to that, for no extra cost, you have this ability to do the classroom commander or classroom orchestration using these devices. And so that comes with the tools that you already have. And if you decide to use it, you can. If you just want to stick with a solid, robust wireless display solution that you're starting out with for your teachers, that's where we can provide that for you.
And there's a few questions, David, regarding tutorials. So if you're wanting to set up Classroom Commander, there are tutorials, and I'll put the website there where it will walk you through a quick start guide, as well as a video for Classroom Commander that we can share with you as well. So absolutely, we can help you with that.
Yeah, excellent. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. So another question, someone said, if a student's viewing something they should, can you add to their screen what they should be looking at? So for example, that student that was on YouTube, I could essentially send a link to to redirect them to where they should be. So I can do that just to one student, I can do that to 2 students, I can do that to all students. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, you can have up to 50 student devices connected on the Windows 10 platform as well as Chrome. I hope that answers that question.
There's another question. Is there a way to get USB webcam mic connection to device wirelessly? That is a great question. And if we had an engineer on the line, I would probably be more comfortable answering that question. I will say what I know. So there is what we use is touch. We do have wireless touch, and that's probably why you're asking that question. In fact, you see behind me, well, kind of behind me there, I've got a ScreenBeam 1000 connected to a touch screen behind me, and that's a great point to bring up. So I can actually have full wireless touch to that screen. So one of the things that we've added and we didn't have time to talk about is ghost inking. So that's another feature that we have in, and I may have possibly skipped past that slide when I was clicking through, but the ability to have wireless touch is there, and that's because of a protocol called UIBC, or user input back channel. And what happens in that case is I can connect my ScreenBeam to my touch screen display, connect my Windows 10 device to the ScreenBeam, and plug in the USB cord that would normally have to plug into the laptop. I plug that into the ScreenBeam instead, and then I get full wireless touch. Well, ghost inking gives you a almost seamless pen and paper-like experience when you're writing and having touch, as opposed to previous to that, you have like a delay in the touch. So that's one of the things we added. But with the UIBC, there's something that is in, I guess, in the background inside of Windows 10 called EMEA USB, called Media Agnostic USB, that we are working with. We are partners with Windows 10. We're partners with Microsoft and co-engineers in some of this stuff, and we in fact help develop a lot of this stuff along with them. So EMEA USB is one of those things that may allow us to have a webcam or mic wirelessly, but that is not available as of right now. Great question, though. There's always one in every crowd. All right. That is, we're about at the top of the half hour here. I'm going to pop my video in here and say hello. Well, that's going to be, okay, good. That's not just my entire screen. It's been good to be here with everyone. We have people, looks like they're starting to head out, finish up your day, but we're glad that you stuck with us. Want to say thank you to Brett, David, Richard, and Jerome for helping us put this together and for being there to answer those questions for you. You know, those are your folks to reach out to. I know they've sent this information to you to get started, so please feel free to continue to reach out to them and work with them. Again, my name's David, and this has been David and Megan's show this morning, but we're glad to have you with us, and hopefully you have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there, and hopefully we'll see you in person soon.